Hey you guys, it's your girl Chakisha with HKS TV, that's Hair Couture Salon TV. I'm glad that y'all are tuning in for Hair Tip Tuesdays. So last week was my first actual video that I did, and I really enjoyed it. I think it helped a lot of people. I got some really good feedback, so I appreciate y'all coming back and tuning in for this week's Hair Tip Tuesday. So this week I'm going to be talking about the great transition. And basically what that means is when you are transitioning from relaxed to natural. What I normally suggest for my clients that have been having relaxers for most of their lives, I ask them to come in for a consultation, or when they're in my chair for their regular appointment, I ask them specific questions, because during the transition, it can be very challenging. And the reason why I say that is because you are faced with two decisions: either do the big chop or what most people call long-term transitioning. So the big chop is basically just cutting out all relaxer, all the way down to the actual new growth. So whether you have half an inch, 2 inches, 3 inches of new growth, you're cutting out all of the rest that is relaxed hair. The second is long-term transition. And I call that long-term is because that's mainly for the clients that are just not ready to let go of their length. So what they do is they trim off a substantial amount for a certain period of time until they either decide to just cut the rest off, or until they've reached their goal to getting all the relaxer out. So these are a couple of tips that I recommend before you decide to go natural. First, I always recommend don't go natural just because it's something to do. Don't go natural if you're thinking it's a way to be lazy and not have to do anything to your hair. And don't go natural without knowing what to expect during that process. You have to know the level of commitment. You have to know that your curl pattern may not instantly, reveal its true curl pattern. A lot of times you have to train it, you have to find products, and there's no one size fit all products, because you have different types of curl patterns, different textures, and different hair requires different things. You may have drier hair and tighter coil, in which one of the stylists that I follow on YouTube, she said fist natural. You might be fist natural, and that curl pattern may not look like a loose coil, so you have to know that your expectations may not look like the picture that you see on Pinterest or on Instagram. So you have to go in with a realistic expectation, knowing that your curl pattern may not be what you expect, and it's going to take a while to train your curl pattern to be what it's going to be. The next one is don't do it because you don't want to do your hair, because being natural is just as much work, because you have to make sure you're moisturizing it. You still have to make sure you're getting your trims, and you still have to make sure that you are maintaining your hair on a regular basis. It's not all about just pulling it up and putting it in a puff ball. So once we decide, okay, natural is the thing to do, now is to determine whether you're going to do short term, which is the big chop, or long term, which is the consistent trims until you get all of the relaxer out. In my opinion, the big chop is the best, because you're getting all that relaxed hair off, and you get to start from scratch and start to get to know your hair, start to figure out what products work, and you're straight in regards to getting rid of the relaxer. The long-term transition, it's a little tricky. It does require more trims, and that's so you can get the relaxer out faster as well. We all know when you trim your hair and you keep your ends sealed off from being split, your hair is going to grow faster anyway. So say your hair is this length and you want to go natural, and you have this much length and this much new growth. So what I always recommend for my clients, if they're very ambitious and want to get through the process faster, I recommend every 2 weeks come in and get trimmed off. And basically your hair may stay at the same length for, a period of time, because every 2 weeks you're coming. That's a lot for some people. So then you have the option, maybe do every 4 weeks, take an inch off. But the faster you get that relaxer out of your hair, the quicker you get to that natural state. Now the trick of doing a long-term transition is you're going to experience breakage. I mean, it's going to be hard to avoid it, especially if you are fist natural. If you have a very tight curl pattern, what's going to happen is, as you get more new growth, the tension between the new growth and the relaxed hair is going to cause the breakage, because we already know when we're relaxing our hair, which is making it limp and straight. So that's why when you're doing your blowouts, when you're transitioning, your roots look nice and thick and healthy, but then your ends look a little like, ugh, I can kind of see through them, or they just don't have that same vibrance that the roots does. And that's just because it's two textures that are very different, that are trying to compete with one another. So my suggestion is, if you're going to do the long term, it's good that you commit to a consistent trim schedule. But you have to be willing to get it trimmed very frequently, so you can get that relaxer out as fast as you can to avoid having to experience a lot of breakage. Once you became fully natural, whether it's through the short term, which is the big chop, or the long term, which is the consistent trim schedule, then it's about keeping that natural hair healthy. A lot of times we end up lacking a lot of the nutrients and moisturizers that we would have if we were having a relaxer. Because when you get a relaxer, you do get more treatments, more conditionings, because you do have to maintain the health of the hair when you are chemically treated. When you become natural, it's just sometimes your hair loses a lot of moisture, and that's why you see a lot of the dry puffs running around town. Sometimes, your hair just does exactly what you want it to do. But in more cases than few, it's gonna be a little rough road in the beginning, trying to add that moisture, train your curl pattern. So what I always recommend to my naturals is to stay on a relaxer schedule. What's a relaxer schedule? Typical, you would get your relaxers maybe every 8 to 12 weeks. What I recommend is them stay on that schedule and then come and get a protein treatment, get their ends trimmed, and get a nice, get their scalp massage to stimulate growth. I highly recommend that, because that's going to help as well give the hair the protein and the nutrients that it's missing from adding the everyday things that you would add in your hair if you had a relaxer. Because most time if you have a relaxer, you got your wrap, you using your little bit of hair oil, putting it throughout your hair every couple of days or what have you, and you're wrapping it, you're stimulating it. You actually do a lot more healthier things to your hair when you're relaxed than you really realize. When you're natural, you tend to just be like, okay, I'm natural, I don't gotta do nothing but put water in it. Burn. That's why your hair stays so dry. When you add water, just like if you add water to your skin and you don't put any moisturizer, you're dry. You have to think of your hair just like you think of your skin. If you're not giving it the things that it needs to look healthy and blemish free and not too oily and not too dry, it's not gonna look like you want it. So in saying all of that, if you are deciding to do the great transition, as I call it, make sure you speak to your professional stylist. Ask as many questions that you need to. If they don't know, what I do, because I'm not I specialize in healthy hair, but I'm not a natural hair specialist. I don't specialize in a lot of natural hairstyles. I do blowouts, two-strand twists, flat twists, things like that. But if they have certain questions, I work inside of a building where we have suites with other stylists that specialize in a lot of variety of things. So I'll just walk them over to that stylist, or I'll be like, let me ask this stylist a question because she specializes in it, and I get the information. So it's very important to get your questions answered. Don't just do it because you're tired of your relaxer or because you're tired of doing your hair and you just want to go natural. It has to be a legitimate reason. That's just like if you're going on a diet. You don't want to go on a diet just so you can look like the skinny chick on Facebook or Instagram. You want to go on a diet because you truly want to be healthy. Because if you do it just to do it, it's going to fall to the wayside. You're going to end up, you know, I'm not hating, but just as a stylist, I just don't like to see the puffs. Like, you get all this pretty natural hair and all you're doing is putting up in a puff with a band. Like, you could be doing so many other things. So again, sorry, I'm shaking the camera. So before you do your long-term or your short-term transition to natural, ask the questions, do a consultation with your stylist. If you don't have a stylist, you know, you can search Style Seat, Vanguard, Schedulosity, Bookseat. You can search all of these professional sites where you can book appointments and find hairstylists that specializes in what it is that you need. Schedule a consultation, ask the questions, because the worst thing to do is to do something just to do it. You want to do it because you really, really have the desire to want to be natural. Men, if y'all wearing y'all hair natural, y'all need to be getting it treated too. I be seeing some of y'all out there with that color treated natural hair looking beautiful. But all jokes aside, all hair needs to be treated equally. Take care of it. Don't just be like, it's just hair. Because when you get to an age, or when you start taking medications, or your genetics start kicking in and you start having some thin edges, and ladies, y'all know we like our edges, or like you get that little thin spot. Women get it too, especially if you're on like high blood pressure medicine and stuff. You know, you start saying shoulda, coulda, woulda. I wish I would have took care of my hair. I wish I would have asked the questions that I needed to know to get longevity out of my hair. So I hope this has been helpful. These are all of my opinions, as well as a mix of my professional knowledge. If you have any questions, you're interested in scheduling an appointment with me, you can always visit me at my website at www.haircouturesalon.com. Until next time, peace.